Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Matt, and today I want to talk about comparing yourself to other people when you're learning a language. And I've talked about this in the past in one of my videos, but I really wanted to expand on it. And I do think it's a very important kind of topic to talk about because I do think that a lot of people do compare themselves in the language learning community, unfortunately. And for the most part, I would say that comparison is really not the best thing to do when you're learning a language. It really can put you in a very negative headspace. Definitely look at what people are doing. If people have great methods or they're doing something fun or interesting, take those ideas and expand them into your language learning. But I think that attaching your self-worth, your self-esteem to these ideas, it can be a very slippery slope. And really the kind of one main idea with this that I have talked about in the past is that, you really don't no one really starts from the same place, and that makes comparison very difficult. So, for example, one person might have grown up in France and another person in Germany. And so they have different experiences. Maybe they were exposed to different kind of things when they were a kid growing up. Maybe they grew up in a multilingual household. They went to this school. They had these interests. So no one is coming from the same starting place. So if you're not coming from the same starting place, it can be very easy to fall into this trap of comparing yourself when really it's not a good one-to-one comparison, right? We're all very different, and there's never going to be this just like perfect lineup of comparison. And in the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, right? Really, you should try to focus in on your own personal journey with language learning, derive positivity and confidence from that versus kind of this competitive aspect of beating other people with languages or knowing more than other people, or just feeling bad because there seems to be all these people that know a ton of languages. So the thing about it is that, the other thing is that you really don't have all of the information to really have a clear assessment of kind of people's skills. And when you compare yourself to that, it could be very slippery slope. So for example, online, it's very common if you go to like internet forums or something like that for people to kind of show off their language skills in various languages. They may say, I have a B1 in this language, a B2, C1, or even bloggers might say, I'm intermediate at this language, I have this skill level. And the thing about it is that it's very subjective. I think there's not that many people probably that take all the language learning certification exams. It's not to say that there aren't, but I would say that probably the vast majority of people learning languages aren't taking the certification exam. It's just this kind of idea where people think they're a B1, they think they're a B2 or intermediate, and they say that they're those things. But the reality is that especially with language learning, there's just this ambiguity of what skill level means to certain people. Even if you just look at the term of fluency, people have very different definitions of fluency, right? Conversational fluency, this is fluency, etc. And then especially with B1 and B2 levels, I think that people tend to overestimate their abilities. So you have to be very careful with that because you're getting this impression that I think people are way better at the language than they actually are, or they might have this idea in their head of what an intermediate is, and you might think, oh, I put all this time into this language and this person is just so much better than me. They say they're a C2, they say that they know this many words or whatever, and really you're analyzing a situation where you really don't know all of the variables. So that could be very tricky. Like for example, how many words do you know, right? Are you going off of words known from an app like Memrise or something like Link? Or is it a vocabulary test? Is it a guess in your head? Do you even know how many words you know? So it can be challenging, right? When someone says they know this many words, they know this much of the language, you don't have all of the information and you don't have the same starting place for comparison. So I think that it's very tricky to try to fall into that trap. And I think it's very easy to get into a place where you're comparing yourself and you can fall into these negative traps. And the thing about it is that learning language takes a long time. And so when you do anything for a long time, you're going to run into challenges and obstacles. And I think even probably the best of people, the most positive people, are going to fall into the traps where they doubt themselves, they feel frustrated, they feel demotivated, and it can be easy to fall into these traps of comparison when you're putting all this time and energy and effort into language learning. So I think it's just something to be cognizant of. I know I've talked about it many times in the past, but I think it is worth bringing up again and again because it is very important, I think, and powerful. So that's what I had to say. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.